Welcome back. The International Museum of Tutankhamun exhibition begins in Vienna with a large international turnout. And to shed more light on this topic, we're joined by the phone, over the phone by Dr. Elhamy El Zayat, the tourism expert. Good morning, Mr. El Zayat.
Good morning.
How are you doing, sir? A beautiful
Fine,
day
thanks.
to you. First of all, before we delve into the exhibition of Tutankhamun, let's give our viewers a briefing over that very popular King Tutankhamun.
Well, King Tutankhamun, although he lived a very short life, and he ruled only for 9 years, as we know, out of which he started ruling at the age of 9, so he was not even mature when he started ruling. He had the largest audience around the world who knows and talks about Tutankhamun. Why? It's because they discovered the tomb of Tutankhamun intact. Howard Carter, when he digged in the West Bank of Luxor, he discovered the magnificent tomb of Tutankhamun. Few pieces were robbed during the ancient time, but not too many. And luckily, we discovered most of what contained the tomb, and most of it was carried to the Cairo Museum. That's back in 1922. It was discovered, but it took until 1936 to carry all the pieces to Cairo Museum, because they had to photograph each piece, describe it, and make sure it's in order and have an index for all what they discovered.
Right. Why was that particular young king have taken all that glamour and all that popularity amongst, countries and people through dynasties? Why do you think is that reason?
First of all, because, as you know, Tutankhamun is the brother of Akhenaten.
Yes.
And he changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. Why? Because he moved to Thebes, and the priest of Thebes would not accept him to carry the name he did carry in the previous time. So when he was moved back into Luxor, he was immediately crowned king. But he, as I said earlier, he was too young. He married his sister, Anne Setakarnon, and he didn't have any children, or they had one child who died. And it's a long story because his wife, after his death, tried to marry the son of the Hittite king. And the son of the Hittite king, the prince, coming to Cairo, was killed on the way by the Egyptians because they didn't accept an Egyptian woman to marry a foreign man. But in the modern days, as I said, the coverage that happened because of Tutankhamun discovery was great. Plus, of course, we heard about that everybody who was participating in the discovery died, or many people died. So they said, this is the malediction of the pharaohs. But it has nothing to do, because each one who died, there was a reason. The one who financed the discovery, Lord Carnarvon, died because of the bite of an insect. And many others who died for very special reasons, but nothing to do with any malediction from the pharaohs. I want to tell you that because the Egyptians appreciate the value of the tomb of Tutankhamun, which, by the way, is very, very small, that's why no guide is allowed inside. The guides have to explain from outside. And there is an institution in Switzerland that reproduces the tomb exactly as it is, and it's put under the house of Carter, the discoverer of the tomb. So people now can visit the original and the replica, the exact replica of the tomb if they wish. And the objective is to keep as many people to visit the replica and not visit the original. I want to pay a high price for this. So many things are going, lots of writing. Until today, lots of people are talking about Tutankhamun discovery. Now, moving to what's going to happen in the new museum, because this is very important. In the Great Egyptian Museum, there will be 1/3 of it dedicated to Tutankhamun. And this is great because the number of pieces that were discovered were almost 6,500 pieces. And the number of pieces that were exhibited in the actual museum, the Cairo Museum, are only 157. So you see the interest that will be, that was, and that is, and that will be for Tutankhamun. And we know that he went around the world twice, once during President Sadat and once lately. And the crowds that queued to just enter the museum and see it were unbelievable.
Right. How King Tut exhibitions became a multi-million-dollar industry? I mean, what were the factors that created out of that particular exhibition to be the #1 must-see exhibition?
Are you talking about the present one or the previous one?
No, the previous exhibitions.
The previous exhibition, of course, it's because the richness of the exhibits.
Right.
Because at that time, as I said, not all the parts of Tutankhamun, but the most important object to be exhibited was the mask of Tutankhamun, which is very famous all around the world. And if we talk about Cairo or about Egypt in general, we either have the pyramids or Tutankhamun mask. And that's even for tourists. All the brochures, all the websites, they have one of the two on the front as an attraction, so people know it. So, in other words, when you say Tutankhamun, you say Egypt.
Right. Although of his short life, but King Tut is the ultimate symbol of ancient Egyptians' glory. Why is that?
He is not the last king of the... I mean, we know that, first of all, this dynasty was very important because it had all the big names, the Tutmosis, the Akhenaten, the Menophes, all of them were in this dynasty, which is the 18th dynasty. But in general, this rule between 1500 and 1000 was a very rich rule, and this is what we call the last empire or the last kingdom. Tutankhamun, actually, after he died, whether he was killed or not, this is a subject of a lot of debates. He was succeeded by his uncle or the guy who had him, which is King Ai. Ai was a politician. He was there, and he ruled for 3 years only. Then the dynasty changed to a warrior, General Horemheb, and Horemheb ruled for 28 years, and he did a lot of great things to recover the majesty of ancient Egypt or of the previous kings. And then started the next dynasty, which is Ramses. Ramses first, Seti first, and Ramses II, as we know. So this period is very, very, very rich. I mean, and mind you, it was not the only tomb that was discovered with everything intact. Hetep-Heres, who is the mother of Cheops, she was buried in a pyramid in front of the Great Pyramid of Cheops. And next to it, there is a shaft. And some people had the idea to put all the funerary objects in this shaft. So when the thieves started trying to steal something, they didn't find it. So luckily we discovered it, and it's also exhibited at the new Egyptian Museum. It has a very special part because this exhibit faces exactly the Great Pyramid.
Right. Of course, we know that Tutankhamun exhibitions have been held in many European countries and toured many places and have effected a foundation of popularity, as we earlier said. So how has that affected in promoting Egypt and the ancient Egyptian history?
Thank you very much for this question because this is tourism. And definitely it did help a lot. Because when you take objects, when you take the parts of the Egyptian museum and they exhibit them overseas, it attracts people. Then it triggers their mind to say, why shouldn't we visit the site itself? It's very important. And especially if they go to visit the exhibition with their kids. Usually the kids are the decision maker to get their parents to go and see the actual place, and the wives as well. So it's very important to have these exhibits. As I said, it attracted a lot of people to Egypt. And if we compare the number of people that came to Egypt after the visit of this museum in Europe and Japan, of course, we see the major increase. We had at that time, for instance, 80,000 Japanese visiting Egypt. After the visit of Tutankhamun, over 2 years period, it jumped to 200,000. So the numbers are there, and we should increase the number of exhibitions. Now, there is a big exhibition of Ramses II taking place in Australia, in Sydney. And this will make a lot of noise. People are talking about it. It's been 6 months. I was there 6 months ago, and everybody was talking about the upcoming visit of the exhibit of Ramses II.
Right. Mr. Elhamy El Zayat, the tourism expert. I'd like to thank you, sir, talking to The Breakfast Show, and you have a beautiful day. And by this, we come to the end of this edition of the show for today. Many thanks to all of you. Until we see you again tomorrow morning, that's a goodbye.